Welcome to our, let me check. Geez, 42,000 listeners and viewers. Amazing, Judith.
Oh, thanks, John. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Amazing for our inaugural session around information and updates on the arts and culture community in Lower Vancouver Island. I believe that it's a vibrant community, a necessary community, and one that is woefully under profiled with little information out there to the public. And so we're going to change that, you and I. And we're going to change that today and start a series of interviews and information sessions around arts and culture developments in Lower Vancouver Island. You specifically are the president of the Juan Fuca Performing Arts Center Society, and you've reached out to me now over a couple of years, updating me and asking for some marketing profile assistance with regard to the development of that activity in the West Shore. But before we get there, Judith, tell me about, and tell our many viewers about the general state of arts and culture facilities and activity in Lower Vancouver Island.
I will do. I'm going to start, John, by asking you a couple of questions.
Hmm.
First question is, do you enjoy going to the movies?
Well, that's not maybe the best question because we used to, but now, of course, streaming has taken over.
But you enjoy watching movies, yes?
Love it.
Perfect. Do you enjoy listening to music?
Love it.
Perfect. You're a supporter of the arts. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people, when you start talking about arts and facilities and theatres, they get lost in this idea that it's this somehow sort of slightly kind of stuffy thing with, oh, I don't understand Shakespeare, or that is kind of way too esoteric for me. No. Arts and culture is everything. So when we're having this conversation, it's everything. And you don't get people acting in movies unless they learn to act as kids. We need the folks who are the kind of, the back of stage doing the sound and the music and the lighting and the everything else. So when we're talking about arts, it's everything. Okay?
Yeah,
You asked
I totally agree with you on that. Right on.
Yeah. So you asked me about regional facilities. So there are three what we call regional theatres in this area. So one be very familiar to folks, the Royal Theatre downtown. It's got a little over 1,000 seats in it. There's the McPherson Playhouse, that's kind of around the 800 seat mark. And then some of you will be familiar with the Mary Winspear Centre and the Charlie White Theatre out there. That's about a little over 300 seats. I think it's 310, something like that. So those are all kind of part of our regional theatre scene. There are also lots of smaller theatres, mostly in the kind of downtown Victoria area. Things like the Belfry, things like the Metro, but run under different models.
You and I originally met a few years ago within our sort of related networks out on the West Shore. And I believe in it within your capacity as a counselor for City of Colwood. Is that correct?
Oh,
And so we're very familiar with the extraordinary growth, population, infrastructure, recreational facilities, all kinds of stuff happening in the West Shore, transportation activity, hard to move around. But there is a glaring omission. There's a glaring omission that we've got to deal with, and you've been dealing with, that being a lack of arts and culture facilities in the West Shore. Please tell us what you've been doing towards changing that.
sure. So, as you very correctly point out, the problem with arts and cultural facilities in the West Shore is we don't have them. We have fabulous sports and recreation activities. I think we deserve fabulous arts and culture.
Absolutely.
The West Shore is now about a quarter of the CRD population. So,
Wow.
and as you point out, growing. We do have theatres in the schools. The good news is the schools use their theatres. The bad news is the schools use their theatres. which means which means they're not available for the community groups to access. And that's kind of very much who we're focused on is what are the spaces that the community groups need. So a bunch of us have been working on this for well over a decade, probably pushing two in some cases.
By the way, thank you for that. Without volunteers like yourselves committed to community growth, we would not have any. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, so Wonder Fuca Performing Arts Centre Society. So I always sort of say Wonder Fuca Performing Arts Centre Society. We're the group working to build an arts and culture centre in the West Shore. And when we started, we were particularly focused on the kind of the theatre space, and we're looking to build a theatre in the kind of 350 seat range. So Mary Winspear size-ish, if that's
Mhm.
what you want to think about. But as we listened to community input, we realized that we also needed to be including spaces for many different types of creative activities. So spaces for teaching dance and messy pottery studios and spaces for teaching music and maybe even small recording studios for video pods. So we're looking to kind of build this arts hub that caters to many different forms of art. And the kind of the fun of it is that it brings together those different arts forms and sets up possibilities for all kinds of cross collaboration.
Years ago, and I must say years ago, when the Mary Winspear facility was being planned and planning around funding was being discussed by, of all people, Mel Cuvelier. For some of us will remember who that was. He was a prominent politician in Lower Vancouver Island, and he helped with the funding of that facility. I was also involved with the funding of that facility, encouraging people to contribute, etc. It's one of the challenges with developing arts and culture facilities is that these things are not readily funded. There's not just money lying around in municipal budgets or provincial budgets to build these things. They're very expensive, and in many instances are not they don't pay for themselves. It's one of the real barriers to developing arts and culture in this community. So we need funding from the community to make these things work. Therefore, have there been any developments recently or that you've been working on at a regional municipal level that will help overcome that barrier, that funding barrier to building facilities, maintaining facilities?
Sure. So I'm going to start with talking a little bit about the West Shore piece, and then I'm going to talk about the Capital Regional District more broadly.
Yeah.
So on the West Shore, we have had what we call an intermunicipal committee. So all six West Shore municipalities, each of them have identified a councillor who's a member of our group. We meet once a month. We talk about, potential locations, funding, all of the kind of various, how are we going to make this happen? So that's a huge step forward. We've been really clear that we're not looking to the municipalities to provide capital funding for this project. That definitely needs to be part of federal government, provincial government, and yes, a significant private contributions to make that happen. At the same time, we've been very clear that we are looking to local governments to support the operational funding of this. And you quite rightly pointed out, it's quite difficult to get funding to make these things happen. And it's particularly difficult to get funding to make these things happen when you're dealing with not one municipality. I talked to folks in Chilliwack who said, oh, well, we talked to our government and they did this. And I went, I'd love to talk to a government. I have to talk to at least six,
Yeah.
which means kind of 6 Monday nights spent standing in front of councils. And yeah, anyway.
Amazing. Thank you.
So it's kind of bringing, that's why the intermunicipal committee is so important. It kind of brings everybody together and hopefully keeps us all on the same page. Last week, there was a really interesting and I think very exciting decision that was made at the Capital Regional District Board. And that is they are moving to create what they call a regional performing arts facilities service, just like we have a regional parks service. And what that service would do is it would provide funding to support the operations of the regional theatres. So the Royal, the Macpherson, the Charlie White. And it recognises that those facilities are really region-wide assets that should be funded by the whole region and not just the few municipalities that currently support them. operational. They're also including something called theatre rental grants. That's huge because renting spaces like the Royal and Macpherson, particularly, can be quite expensive. So if you're a little dance group in Langford and you want to kind of put on a performance on a bigger stage, it's too expensive. You can't afford to do it. So this service would set up theatre rental grants that would support local groups to perform in those regional facilities. Hooray, hooray. It would also provide planning grants for new theatres, like the Westdoor Theatre. So that would support things like the business case studies and the architectural drawings and all of the other costs which come with the upfront. And once the West Shore Theatre is built, it would also provide operational funding. So that then starts to be the kind of how we move this thing forward. So that's a huge step. It does this business of kind of not bringing just the West Shore municipalities on board with this, but all of the CRD municipalities on board with all of the regional theatres. And the other thing that I loved about the discussion last week is not only the funding that it provided, but the conversation around the table was hugely supportive of the arts, of the benefits of the arts, and of the benefits of creating a West Shore theatre.
This is extraordinary news. Congratulations to you and your team and others who helped bring this about. I was very much involved with the Chamber of Commerce ecosphere years ago, chair of the Downtown Victoria Chamber for a while. And for years, these business groups have been advocating for amalgamation. And so that we don't have 13 municipalities, we have one. That's not possible. That's not probably going to happen in our lifetime. However, then what we advocated for was some consolidation of services that we could provide regional support towards siloed activity. And one of them was arts and culture. And it sounds like it's kind of starting, if not has happened, that now we have this sort of regional support towards building the arts and culture community in Lower Vancouver Island. Well done, Judith. Fabulous. Oh, this is so exciting. And I have a granddaughter who is in a dance group. And so this will directly benefit her in her career as a dancer. Tell me about the progress of the West Shore Arts and Culture Center and your activities. Sort of what's happened to date?
Okay. So we've been around as a registered charity since 2017. So lots of conversations, including through COVID when it was really hard to have conversations. As I mentioned, we've got support now from all six West Shore municipalities and the CRD. We've also got support from our MPs and our MLAs. So, good political support. Everybody's kind of saying, yes, we need this. Just have to make it happen. We know what we want to build. So we did a feasibility study in 2022 that kind of laid out these are the spaces that we want to build. This is about the size of it. This is kind of what we need to make it happen. This is about how much it's going to cost and all the rest of it. This April, we put that in front of a workshop group of about 70 different arts groups from around the region. And we said, this is what we're looking at doing. Have we got it right? And they came back and said, yes, absolutely, you've got it right. And here's a bunch of other good ideas to add to it. So coming out of that, we were working with Cascadia Architects, and Cascadia have produced this really lovely image of what this West Shore Theatre would look like. But we're planning on doing a big reveal of that shortly, and
Oh, oh,
I'll tell you
exciting.
about that in a minute. So we're very clear on what we want to build. We know who we're building for. So we're not trying to create space that's kind of all about professional shows. This is about community. This is about your granddaughter,
Mhm.
space to learn how to dance and then to kind of put on performances and all of the other skills that need to go along. Whether it's somebody who just kind of loves to come along and do pottery classes in the evening, or somebody who's kind of really wanting to get their foot on an arts career.
This is so exciting. I'm actually getting tingles on my arms.
Oh,
Let's talk about okay, so at some point the rubber has to hit the road and we got to get money. Because it's an integral part of getting these things off the ground and supporting other regional initiatives and blah, blah, blah. tell me, what are you doing with regard to fundraising? Is there anything exciting coming up soon that we should all be aware of?
Okay. John, can I talk about one other piece first?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you don't have.
This is so exciting. This is great
Yeah.
news.
So what you didn't hear me say is we have a location.
I was going to ask, but I thought that might have been under the great veiling. Veiling.
No, I wish that was the case. So so no, we have been steadily looking for locations. It's been a journey. We've had kind of, oh, this is going to be a great opportunity. This is going to work. Oops, no, it's not going to work for this region. So it's been the roller coaster, which is absolutely typical for a project of this type and size.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things we really do need is location. Somewhere in the heart of the West Shore, it needs to be accessible by bus, by bike, by car. It needs to have adequate parking. We've pursued a lot of opportunities that haven't worked so far. We've got some other ideas actively on the table, but we're still waiting for that right one to emerge. Another piece that we're looking for is our development partner, because we're not going to do this. We're not developers. We're not going to do this alone. So we're looking for the right developer who's going to partner with us in purchasing the land, building the arts center, along with probably some other integral pieces like whether it's residential or commercial or a hotel. We're kind of looking for that nice sort of win-win partnership all around. So, that's part of the exploration. And to come back to the money, we need to get into a serious fundraising campaign because we know we're going to need to raise 40 million, possibly more. So these
Oh,
things don't come cheap.
yes. Okay. Thank you for updating me on location and need for a partner developer. That's great to get that information out via this vodcast. So let's get back to getting a chunk of that 40 million. Are there fundraisers on the horizon that we should alert our audience to?
I am so glad you asked that.
Yeah. Right
You
on.
must have had a heads up that we were going to be doing something. So,
Just connecting the dots.
everybody, we are having this amazing fun and fundraising campaign on November the 6th. It's going to be at Olympic View Golf Club. For those of you who know out in Colwood, it's a beautiful facility. We're calling it the kickoff to the campaign for our first million. I don't think we're going to get there on one night, but it's a start.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun evening. We've got a lot of local talent being showcased. We're going to have great food. We're going to have lots and lots of amazing auction items. Fabulous people joining us. John, I hope you're going to be one of them. We are going to do the big reveal of that lovely image of the Arts Centre that I talked about. I want to do a shout out to our sponsors. So Olympic View, Path, Biking Properties, Speedwash, Nicola Wealth have all kind of really stepped up to the plate, and we've got a few other kind of fun things going along there. Um, Everybody is welcome. I can give you a website and link to get people to.
Absolutely. I'll put it down on sort of on our little screen here and in the notes. So exciting. Judith, this is crazy. We will have many, many more of these discussions. Okay. We're going to start to make a lot of noise in the community about this and start to get folks galvanized around numerous activities required. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for all of your volunteer work and to all of your group. And this is just one small step toward reaching these fabulous goals. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you at the gala.
Right on.